I want to welcome on Carrie and Catherine, and talk a little bit more about some new testing opportunities for holiday growth. So Carrie and Catherine, can you guys just quickly introduce yourselves for me?
Sure, I'll go first. I'm Carrie Bacon. I'm the Associate Director of SEO here at DA. And today I'm going to be talking about CRO testing that you can do now to build your conversions for the holiday season.
And I'm Catherine Grabowski. I'm Senior Creative and Content Specialist here, and I'm really excited to talk to you about influencer strategy.
Perfect. So we wanted to touch on like these two opportunities that we think brands can really lean into just in order to maximize their holiday session. Like Carrie mentioned, user experience and conversion rate optimization, and the second being influencer marketing, UGC. These are two things that we have seen consistently time and time again. Brands do not spend enough time on, despite, I think, it being relatively obvious. So I'm going to start with user experience, and then we're going to pivot to UGC. So Carrie, first of all, obviously site experience is so important, user experience is so important. This should be an overall strategic initiative for your brand. But if it's not, if it's just something where you're thinking, okay, I need to start doing something now, my conversion rate is declining, etc., most people might think now is too late to make impactful like site changes, that they don't have the time and resources. Is this a safe assumption? Should they table it until next year? Is there a way to start doing it this year? What do you feel?
Okay, so first things first, it is not too late to start testing. You should really start testing now. If you haven't done testing up to this point, then you should really start your testing now to get everything ready to go for the holiday season. That way you'll have enough time and active users to verify your results. It usually takes about 2 weeks to a month for each test in order to get enough data going. That way you have a good result and good benefits to the tests. And also there's usually a code freeze in November and December. So you're going to want to have all of your testing done before October. And as for resources, you have more than you think. For instance, you can look over analytics and see where people are leaving during their site visits. And this can give you an idea of where to start looking at things to test.
Okay, great. So realistically, we could probably start doing some things through the remainder of September and October. Okay, so it seems, like you said, it can be relatively easy to test. Where should brands start, right? If we realistically have 2 months to start testing, should I focus on my highest revenue pages? Should I focus on the pages with the highest drop-off? Like, how would you recommend a brand prioritize these tests, knowing that the key goal really for Q4 is conversion generation, sales generation? Where would you, if you had an e-com site, where would you start?
So I do work with a lot of e-com clients, and the place that we really like to start focusing on are the high impact areas. And this can be high traffic or low conversion areas. They could be either one to see the benefit from optimization. But usually these are your product pages, your home pages, and the checkout flow. These are your three major places that we tend to see tests that have really great differentials with the variabilities and then the controls. And then you can choose to implement those tests on those areas. And then you can make a plan. When you do these tests, don't just go in and do a test just to make a test. You want to look at your data, you want to look at what's actually going on those pages and make an informed decision. You want to know whether or not changing the images is going to do something, changing the verbiage is going to do something. Don't just go in and make a test simply to make a test.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. So if we have September and October, realistically, how many tests could we or should we run before we go lock it in?
Right, like we were saying, you want to make sure that you have enough time due to enough sessions and enough visitors to the site. So I would say that realistically, you could have 2 to 3 tests before the holiday season begins. That way you have enough visitors and enough sessions and enough interactions with your website. That way you can actually understand if like say the first day you had a test that went off the charts, it may have been an anomaly. So you don't want to stop a test after just one day. And then also you'll probably put a pause on your testing at the end of October. This will be because you're getting ready to do the holiday shopping, and most of the time your web dev team will actually put a freeze on all web dev changes to the site right around the end of October, so that they're keeping up the health of the website and not doing things like tests.
Okay, that's really good to know. Can you talk through some of like how quickly should brands generally see like an impact of that? You said sometimes you'd run it for 2 weeks to a month because you want to make sure there's no anomalies, but should you realistically see an impact pretty quickly?
Yeah, with some of the tests that we've run, we've seen an impact almost the next day. Like there's a definitive winner/loser when it comes to our variations. But you should start to see a differentiator between the A and the B when it comes to your testing. Especially if you've already done the test and you know that in your test you had a clear and definite winner, you could definitely see a change right away when you decide to put it live on your site. If you're looking at the chart here on the left, this is something that we did for a client of ours, an e-commerce client, and we had already run the test and seen a clear winner. And as soon as we implemented the test on the site, this was the change in their conversion rate.
Okay, and I know you want to walk us through a couple of like testing examples, so let's you do that.
Great. Yeah, I do have a couple of examples on both homepage and product/category pages that could be especially beneficial for you to have ready to go before the holiday season. So these are the homepage tests that we may suggest that you run. The first one is the fear of missing out and the social trust. Make a category called bestsellers that includes, of course, your bestsellers in it. You want to be honest as well as clever. And this gives the idea of the visitor that these are items that other people are enjoying and makes me want to see what other people are enjoying as well. So not only is it showing all of your wonderful products all in one area, but it's showing the ones, it's causing a desire to see more of it. I want to be part of the cool kids and seeing what everybody else is enjoying. And so simply doing this, making a bestseller section, can actually improve conversion rates for you. And then there's moving up the categories on the homepage, a scroll depth test. So move your most beneficial, the categories that you want to be seen first, up higher on the page. People only scroll so far down when they're going through a website, especially the homepage. So put your most important categories or your most beneficial categories up towards the top of the page. That way people will see them sooner and they'll go and click through to them sooner. We did this with a client and we saw the conversion rate for those category pages increase by 13% after we moved this up higher on the home page. Another easy test to run would be making your CTAs stand out. You'd be surprised how many users on websites don't know where they're supposed to click, or they don't know if an item is clickable or where they're supposed to go when they're on a page. Sometimes they just kind of randomly click it on pictures and bolded text, but the area that you want them to click on to go to another page may not be highlighted and they may not understand that that's where they're supposed to go. And next we have product pages, product page tests that we can easily run. The item popularity, simply putting that this is a popular item and it's in other people's carts right now. We did this for a client and we saw a 5% increase in the proceed to checkout clicks. It gave that idea of, oh, I may be missing out on this and other people are enjoying it, so I should probably check out with this soon. And then, as you were mentioning earlier on, you and Corey, is the free shipping call out. 50% of respondents said they would avoid retailers that don't offer free shipping, and 78% of consumers are willing to buy more to qualify for free shipping. So if this is something that you offer, you want to call this out and you want to make it really plain and easy to see. And then last, there's the social trust review star ratings. Putting this on a category page for one of our clients increased their conversion rate for this category by 4%.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's really helpful to see. So if you're struggling with some tests that you're not sure if you want to run, some great ideas. Carrie, but can I leave you with one question, which is, what is some of the biggest mistakes that you see when you talk to brands about conversion rate optimization? What is the biggest mistake that brands are usually running into?
So the biggest mistake that most people make is wanting to do all the things all at once. They're like, well, if free shipping does well, and if making a category of bestsellers does well, and if moving things up on the site does well, let's just do them all and do it all at once. And while, theoretically, you may think that, oh, this is a great idea, when you do this, you can't see what's actually impacting the sales and the change of customer behavior, because you change so many things. It's best to take it one at a time. We'll do one variation versus your control. That way you can easily see if, say, adding free shipping to the page really does impact your conversion rates or not.
Okay, wonderful. And then I think you have some takeaways as well.
I have a quick takeaway sheet so that everybody remembers that you want to get started now. You want to focus on your high impact areas, but you want to have a plan. Don't just test for testing's sake. Choose 2 to 3 tests to run in this short amount of time, and then go ahead and implement the tests that show promise before the holiday season. Mm-hmm. You want to go ahead and put those into your web team's planning. That way they can get live before the holiday season hits.
Great, thanks so much, Carrie. So now I want to pivot a little bit to the media mix, right? And despite the fact that there was so much talk about influencer marketing and UGC, I still find that a lot of brands are not using it appropriately as a sales generation tactic. So I just want to talk about some effective ways that brands can start testing and measuring impact for Q4. So I want to start with the timing side of things, because influencers, Catherine, are not like biddable media, right? You can't just like easily turn it on and turn it off. So it does feel like a little bit of a bigger undertaking. Can you just talk about the time, if you wanted to start activating something like this for the back half of the year, that it would take to really set up, vet partnerships with influencers? What are some strategies that you found to turn it around quicker? Can you just talk through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's never too early or too late to integrate influencer into your marketing strategy. On the next slide, we have some key call outs about the effectiveness and impact of influencer. I know Bridget touched on this in the previous section, but 71% of consumers said it's important to recognize a brand before they make a purchase, and over 50% of Gen Z, just under 50% of millennials, consider influencer recommendations one of the most important factors in their purchase decision. So we know the impact and the importance of influencer, but on the next slide here, going through what does a brand need to actually activate an influencer marketing strategy? The first thing would be a product or the actual promotion or the sale that we're focusing on. The next would be the activation strategy, so the budgets or the timelines that would go into this campaign. And then finally, the brand book. So what are the do's and don'ts of this campaign, and how can we integrate that into our creator messaging? So on the next slide here, we have an example roadmap of what a campaign could look like. And Megan, as you mentioned, it is different because we're working with real creators from real people here, but we typically see a 3-week turnaround time, the first week and a half for that pre-launch strategy, and then about a week and a half to get that content live and running. And then campaign insights and tracking we see as an ongoing initiative. So that immediate impact, but then also the long-term impact that influencer has. And then when we're thinking about types of influencers, micro versus macro influencers, and the time that it takes to activate each of these, micro influencers are really great to lean into these niche audiences, but they might not have as big of a reach. But these macro influencers, it's going to be a broader audience, but again, a larger reach. These micro influencers, we can typically activate a bit more quickly because we're working directly with the influencer rather than an agent or an agency. So there's a lot more flexibility and ease of communication there. And then finally, just going into what we look for when we're selecting influencers, we have a tool that gives us access to a variety of metrics. One of those being the quality of the audience. So we all know that there's many fake accounts out there on the internet. So this is a tool that allows us to say how many of their followers are actual real people, and how engaged are they with this content. And then also brand safety metrics. Does the content align with our brand? Do we want to stay away from political content or religious content, for example? And then just getting very granular on the insights that we're able to take away. So we can look at overall engagement rate, but for instance, we could also look at what's the engagement rate for specific content themes or hashtags within that content. So all that to say is it can be a very quick turnaround and process to work with influencer marketing, and it really is never too late or too early to get started.
So question on that. So if it'll take about 3 weeks to turn something around, we recommend traditionally going with micro influencers if this isn't part of your broader strategy, if you would activate. Would it be safe to say that you could start testing then and have a campaign live like October 1, get some learnings and roll that out through November and December? Are a lot of the influencers already booked up for November and December? Like, is there an opportunity to really do some tests in October and roll out a full scale campaign through the rest of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would definitely say October 1st is more than enough time to get a campaign started. And you're absolutely right, getting it started in October so that we're able to leverage those partnerships and continue those relationships into the holiday season. But October 1st is more than enough time to get a campaign up and running.
So one of the things we were talking about in our last session on Amazon is how great Amazon influencers are because it's so attributable. And one of the challenges a lot of brands have traditionally had with influencers, especially if you're thinking about a direct response brand, is the attribution back to their sales and their sales effort. So outside of just like, you know, using unique coupon codes or something like that, that feels very basic. Like, how should brands approach thinking about measurements?
Yeah, exactly. So there are definitely some primary metrics that if you're researching influencer marketing or already working with influencers, you're probably looking at what is the reach of the post, how many people are engaging with the content. Like you mentioned, promo codes. We have an example here of tracking how many people use this individual influencer's unique code, and then also the revenue that we generated from this campaign. But we're really taking a step back and looking holistically at how did this campaign impact our full marketing strategy. So do we see an increase in branded search volume? Have we seen an uptick in website traffic? Do we have more leads now added to our database? So more emails gathered through this influencer campaign, but it's really understanding how this influencer campaign impacted our marketing strategy on a holistic, from a holistic viewpoint rather than just on an individual content level. And on the next slide here, talking through some strategy adjustments as we're seeing increase in web traffic or increase in branded search volume, how are we pivoting and adjusting our media mix to capitalize on this and understand how we can help influencer work with the rest of our marketing strategy. But then also taking a step back, how can we amplify our influencer content that's doing really well and use this content, this UGC content, from a paid perspective. So we consistently see that UGC content typically outperforms traditional creative units and traditional forms of media. So really leveraging this creative for our paid strategy. And then finally, campaign timing. So making sure the influencer fits within the broader campaign. So if we have an upcoming sale, maybe the paid ads are highlighting the promotion and the timing of the sale, but our influencer content is providing inspiration and saying, here are my favorite products from the sale. But again, really making sure that all of these pieces are working together and we're not thinking of influencer marketing as an independent campaign, but rather part of our larger marketing strategy.
Yeah, that's such a good point because influencer won't have the same like attributable ROI. You can't just log into a platform and it's like, oh, here are the view through conversions or anything like that. But you should be able to see the lift pretty easily. You can look at if it's just into your MMM, that should be relatively easy. It should be easy enough for you to say increase brand search volume and look at the total CAC and the effect that it had. And I really love their point about, you know, influencers not just media, right? It's creative as well. And like, what's that value that you get from that creative? Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. Do you have a few any takeaways for us as well?
Yeah, so the takeaways would be that it's never too early or too late to start influencer, and this can really be a very quick process. And then on the measurement side, we really are thinking holistically. So don't think of influencer as an independent campaign, but think of this as an always on part of your marketing strategy, something that you should be activating now and continuing through the holiday season.
Okay, great.